In 1981, Terry Peder Rasmussen dated Honeychurch, who had been married twice and had a daughter from each marriage. Honeychurch was last seen in La Punta, California, on Thanksgiving Day of that year. After an argument with her family, Honeychurch left with Rasmussen and her two daughters, 6-year-old Marie Elizabeth Vaughn and 1-year-old Sarah Lynn McWaters. They were never seen by their family again. On November 10, 1985, the bodies of Honeychurch and Vaughn were found in a barrel in Bear Brook State Park in Allenstown, New Hampshire. They were found to have been unalived. On May 9, 2000, a second barrel was found about 100 yards from the location of the first, containing the body of McWaters and an unidentified child aged between 2 and 4 years old. Investigators believe all 4 victims were unalived at around the same time, and that the second barrel was already there in 1985 but was overlooked due to its distance from the first. The identities of Honeychurch and her 2 children were not known until they were confirmed by DNA profiling in 2019. As of June 2019, the third child remains unidentified, but authorities were able to confirm that Rasmussen was her biological father. Rasmussen died before being linked to the Bear Brook crimes, and thus was never charged or tried in court. While using the pseudonym Bob Evans, Rasmussen dated Denise Bodan, who disappeared from Manchester to Thanksgiving 1981 with her 6-month-old daughter. Authorities believe that Rasmussen unalived Bodan somewhere in California. Although she has never been found, Bodan was not reported missing at the time as her family believed she left town due to financial reasons. Throughout the early 1980s, Rasmussen remained in possession of Bodan's daughter, whom he called Lisa, and posed as her father. He was arrested in Cypress, California, in 1985 under the name Curtis Kimball for charges of driving under the influence and endangering the welfare of a child but failed to appear in court. He then took on the alias Gordon Jensen and abandoned the child at an RV park in Scotts Valley, California, in 1986. 2 years later, Rasmussen was arrested under another alias, Jerry Mockerman, for driving a stolen vehicle. As Mockerman, his fingerprints were linked him back to his Curtis Kimball alias. In 1989, he was arrested and received a 3-year prison sentence for child abandonment. An additional charge of child abuse was dropped. This is believed to be the result of a plea bargain. He was paroled in 1990 and absconded almost immediately, becoming a fugitive. Rasmussen resurfaced in December 1999 under the pseudonym Larry Vanner when California-based chemist Yoon Jun introduced him to her family. The two were married in an unofficial ceremony in 2001. Jun disappeared the following June and her body was found buried in cat litter in their home after having been unalived. Rasmussen was arrested in November 2002 and pleaded no contest in 2003 to charges relating to her unaliving. He was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. The guilty plea came as a surprise to the court. Contra Costa County unaliving detective Roxana Grunheide believes Rasmussen pleaded guilty after overhearing her say that she was going to request a paternity test for Lisa, hoping the guilty plea would make Grunheide stop probing into his past. A fingerprint match had confirmed that along with Vanner, he had previously used the aliases Jensen and Kimball, linking him to the child abandonment case. In 2003, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department opened a case to find Lisa's biological family. DNA evidence eventually found that Rasmussen was not Lisa's father, and the case spent years without any significant developments. Rasmussen passed on December 28, 2010, aged 67, while imprisoned at High Desert State Prison. His cause of death was a combination of lung cancer, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and pneumonia. San Bernardino detective Peter Headley was assigned to Lisa's case in 2013, by which time genealogy website databases had grown substantially. Aided by genetic genealogist Barbara Ray Vender in 2015, Bodan's daughter discovered her mother's identity and that the man she once thought had been her father was her kidnapper. When Bodan's father was shown a mugshot of Curtis Kimball, he identified him as Bob Evans. This linked him to New Hampshire in the same timeframe as the Bear Brook unalivings. On January 26, 2017, authorities publicly announced that Bob Evans was a suspect in the disappearance of Bodan and the Bear Brook unalivings. Additionally, they announced that DNA confirmed that he was the father of the middle child found in Allenstown but that Evans was a pseudonym and his legal identity was not known. In June 2017, in hopes of finding his true identity, police released a video of a police interview of Evans from 2002 after his unalivings of Yoon Jun. 2 months later, he was confirmed to be Rasmussen through Y-DNA testing from a DNA sample contributed by one of his children from what is believed to be his first marriage. The use of genetic genealogy to identify Rasmussen represented new possibilities in forensic investigations. These techniques have since been used in other high-profile cases, including the capture of serial unaliver Joseph James Dungello in April 2018. New Hampshire investigators announced that the identities of Honeychurch, Vaughn, and McWaters were confirmed through DNA testing in June 2019. The identities of the middle child, who Rasmussen fathered, and her mother remain unknown. Investigators believe that the mother of the child was also unalived by Rasmussen. Criminologist Jack Levin has stated that Rasmussen is unlike any serial unaliver he has ever studied, stating, "What distinguishes Rasmussen from most serial unalivers is that he targeted people with whom he had a relationship. Most serial unalivers would never do that. It's the last thing they would do. Instead, they focus on complete strangers." He has been dubbed the chameleon unaliver due to his use of various aliases and his crime spree, which stretched across the country. In 2018, New Hampshire Public Radio covered the Bear Brook unalivings, as well as other posthumous findings on Rasmussen. On the first season of the true crime podcast Bear Brook, Rasmussen lived a mile and a half away from 14-year-old Lorraine Rand when she disappeared from Manchester in April 1980. Denise Dano, a 25-year-old woman who lived blocks from the Rand residence and on the same street as Rasmussen, went missing from a bar in June 1980. Police and FBI agents conducted a search in Manchester after receiving an anonymous tip regarding Dano in November 2017, after Rasmussen was announced as the Bear Brook unaliver. A second search was conducted in May 2018. By 2020, New Hampshire Senior Assistant Attorney General Jeff Strelzin said there was no evidentiary connection between Dano and Rasmussen, but that the interest in his case brought renewed attention into Dano's disappearance. Elizabeth Lamott was 17 years old when she disappeared from the Youth Development Center in Manchester in 1984. She left the group home after receiving a furlough, so she was not reported missing until police were seeking more information on Rasmussen in 2017. At that time, a tipster speculated that she could have been the Elizabeth Evans that had been listed as Rasmussen's wife during his time in Manchester. However, DNA from Lamott's relatives later proved that she was one of the victims in the Redhead unalivings, a series of unsolved homicides across the U.S. which are unrelated to Rasmussen. Lamott had been found in Tennessee in 1985 and lived about for months after her disappearance. When Lisa was interviewed by detectives in 1986, they asked her if she had any siblings. She said that she did, but they passed eating grass mushrooms when they were out camping. As Rasmussen did not have any known victims during the 5 years between Bodan's disappearance and Lisa's abandonment, her answer led police to believe that he may have had more unknown victims. San Joaquin County Assistant Sheriff John Huber speculated that Rasmussen may have been responsible for unaliving Amanda Schumann Daza. In 1995, she was discovered by scavengers inside of a refrigerator which had been dumped in a canal in Holt, California. Like Rasmussen's confirmed victims, she had been unalived, having previously been an unidentified victim known as the San Joaquin Jane Doe and the Lady in the Fridge. Daza was identified by Othram on February 23, 2023,